Okay, Daryl, I got your new radio here and your mic. So I'm going to do the elimination of pin 4 for this one. So you'll be all set on that, which is just remove this. And I take the little case off here, put this under there with some heat shrink. And then it's tucked away. If you ever want to put it on, just resolder it right there and you're all good. So I'll put a new battery in it for you. And we'll get it ready to go for you. This is mine here. I use some black knobs. I have multiple of these, so I kind of use some of the knobs as donor radios for my striker. I like the black knobs. So I did some changes to this one. This isn't stuff that I'll do for my business as far as anything I'm really planning on doing, but for myself it was something fun to do. So I put an XT90 plug on the back instead of the standard. This is AWG10. So yeah, it's got a heavy duty plug. The only thing I noticed when I did that is the voltage is a little more consistent. I put some J.W. Miller chokes for the negative and positive terminal that go from that XT90 down to the board. I put a Palomar Max mod in there. I noticed a slight, very slight, I wouldn't say it's worth paying big bucks to have somebody put a Palomar Max mod in your radio. You guys can research that on your own, but I had some that I'd never used, so I figured what the heck, I'll put one in. Popped it in. I sure as heck didn't see a 10% in modulation increase, I guess is what they're stating, but it was a very minor increase. Maybe the voltage is a little more consistent now due to that bigger component. I don't know. All in all, it didn't cost me anything to do it. That's why I did it, just to see what would happen. I also put some larger capacitors in the audio circuit. I popped 2 out and put 2 in. Really big, tall capacitors that basically are like bent over in the circuit board. I'm not going to show all that, but that did change a little bit of the audio to give it a little more intensity on the positive peaks. So I don't know if it's worth doing or not. These work really good just how they are, but just for fun, over my time off I did that. So is it worthwhile for you to pay big money and have somebody do all that stuff? Not really, but if you can do things yourself and you're handy, then it's kind of fun. And that's what it was. It was like a fun evening project that I did. Another project that I did really quick here, the amp board on this was defective. They have problems sometimes where the MOSFETs short out, and when they short out, basically the radio just shuts off. So what I did is I made this a 2985, and then I wired this directly in. Not the antenna jacks, just the power. So I'm using the internal supply here out of this radio. The wires are coming out, fan kit's been removed off the back, the wires are coming out through a couple holes there, and then I velcroed it so it sits here. Obviously it's just for fun. We wouldn't necessarily use this except for the dummy load, as we should all know. But it's just for demonstration purposes. I think it looks pretty cool. And yeah, it's a 2985 now, so anybody that knows these, you know, they're not very stout without the amp board in, but the amp board is pretty much, you know, what they are. The MOSFETs fail quite often in them. I think that, you know, this type of radio is much better because it just uses standard MOSFETs to create basically the same power, maybe slightly less power on this, but this is a much more, I would say, more well-balanced radio than this. This is fun, but I would still choose this if I had to choose between the two. Obviously these are way more expensive, and they have the newer HP model now, so it's a larger amp circuit. I'd rather do my amplification after the fact. This basically gives this radio a little bit more than what the onboard amp did, if that's what anybody was wondering. Close to the same, I guess, but you know, I prefer this amp because it's outside, and you know, if say something whatever happened to it, you could easily replace it, that kind of thing. So I don't know, to each his own, but the radio is now a 2985. They're good looking radios. I have a really soft spot for these classic Base radios. We can power this one on and see. I can turn up the brightness a little bit there, but they look brighter than what they actually are. I need to put some handles. I'm waiting to order some from Ranger. They were out of stock, so I like both for different reasons. They're both cool radios. But I'm going to make this video now for the rest of your order, Daryl, just to show a couple of fun radios here. So, you know, when you plug your mic in now on this tester, you got no RX, and that's essentially what it does. It stops anything from the mic jack to the mic. So the wire is still here, so if there is anything there, it does still flow through, but it stops at that wire inside. So that's all we're trying to accomplish there. So what ends up happening is if you plug this into like a Cobra 29 or a Uniden, I don't know, PC76 XL or something, you're not going to get sound out of the speaker because it needs that RX. So the mic's got TX, of course, so we're good. Okay, here's the radio right here. Okay, so I'm doing the PC stuff right now. If you need the software, I recommend going to Knight's Radio of United Kingdom. He's got a lot of different software downloads on his website. He's got a lot of different cool radios that we don't have in America that you could buy from him. And he does ship to America. I think his website's pretty easy to work. You can order it right from the website, whereas my website's not so easy to work with. And in a lot of cases, you got to contact me directly. So that's the scoop on the international stuff there. Deal with Knights. Really good people there. I've bought from them myself for my own personal needs in the hobby and all that. So yep, he has a option on his website for all the software downloads and stuff. So you can see here, actually I think that's where that goes, and then it's going to go up to 505 or something. And then on this one, this is the UK FM band, but you have to switch this to the 5. And you can do that yourself by TX and switch it, and then RX and switch it. So I'm not going to spend the time to do that. If that's something you're interested in. There's also the 12 meter option here. So you got a lot of different stuff here. Okay, we're about to run out of time on the phone's memory, so I'm going to make this short and sweet. You got 40 watts all the way up with the RF power, about 1 all the way down on FM. AM, you're going to have 8 watts all the way up and about 1 all the way down on RF power. Sideband, the radio will do about 50, so we'll start there. 1 2 1 2, check, right around 40 to 50 anyways is what these do. Check 1 2, check 1 2, hello. So it's a dual final radio versus a triple final or quad final like some of the other ones that do way more power, but this is good to run. You know, you can run it with other things, you can adjust the power, all that good stuff. Carrier, you know, they do about 50 on PEP on AM. They sound excellent on AM with this mic too, and on sideband. So the difference between what does the XT90 plug do, I have both of these set up to show voltage when we key. This is Daryl's without the XT90. They're both running off the same power supply, so you can see 13.3 volts DC. This one has the XT90, 13.8 volts DC. There's the DC draw, so 2, 4, 6, 7, about 7. This is Daryl's right here. A little less draw. More current, more draw. That only makes sense. Sideband. Here's sideband on this one. Peak envelope. This is wrong meter, so I can't show you a power difference because the meter's on the other side. But sideband on voltage, 1 2 3 1 2 3. Check, hello. Okay. Upper sideband on this one, voltage. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Hello. Check 1 2 1 2. Hello. Okay. AM. We got about a minute left before the video has to stop. It will stop on its own. So AM on this one, sitting at about 14 volts. Then when I modulate, it doesn't really move. 1 2 3 1 2 3. I'm listening to it through my Ranger. Okay, we got about 40 seconds. Key on this one, 13.7, and then 1 2 3 1 2 3. Doesn't really move there either. So not a huge difference, you know. Again, is it worth spending all this big money if you can't do it yourself, or just are afraid to do it yourself, or whatever the case is? Not really. Is it worth doing? Yeah, I guess if it's fun, you want to do it yourself, it's definitely worth doing. You do need to take a file or like a small drill bit and drill out these holes to make this accommodate and fit. Otherwise, it just doesn't fit. The old mic, the old plug is much smaller. All right, 73. The video is gonna